The silence in the room wasn't quiet. It was the holding of breath before a crash. I watched my mother beam as 5 of her grandchildren tore into their brand new iPhone 17 Pro Max, the glossy boxes reflecting the chandelier light. Then there was my daughter, Lily, standing at the edge of the rug, clutching a single, paper-thin envelope. My mother called it a lesson in values, but looking at Lily's forced smile, I knew exactly what it was: a public erasing. The steering wheel of my sedan was cold under my palms, a grounding sensation I desperately needed as I turned onto the winding, manicured streets of Briar Glen. It was the kind of town where the lawns were not just mowed, but manicured with scissors, where the silence was heavy with judgment, and where my mother, Evelyn, held court like a monarch in exile. I glanced in the rearview mirror. Lily was in the back seat, humming a tune from a video game, looking out the window at the passing kaleidoscope of autumn leaves. She was 10 years old, suspended in that fragile amber between childhood innocence and the sharp realization that the world is not fair. My job, as I saw it, was to keep her in the amber for as long as possible. Do not let them see you sweat. Nora, I told myself, I was 33 years old. I was a senior project manager for a logistics firm. I managed supply chains that spanned oceans. I could handle a Sunday afternoon with my family. But the anxiety was a physical thing, a tight knot sitting just beneath my sternum. This was the annual grandkids celebration. In any other family, this would be a barbecue or a chaotic potluck. In the Hayes family, it was a summit. It was a performance review. I checked my lipstick in the visor mirror one last time. I looked steady. I looked organized. I looked like a woman who had not spent the last 6 months quietly navigating a divorce she had not yet announced to the family because she knew exactly how the news would be weaponized. To them, I was still the single mom who made questionable life choices, not the woman who had left a stifling marriage to breathe again. We pulled into the driveway. It was already full of SUVs that cost more than my first apartment. My brother, Brendan, was there, his massive luxury truck taking up 2 spots. My sister, Claire, had parked her spotless white crossover next to the fountain. My sensible 4-door sedan looked like the help had arrived. "Ready, Lil?" I asked, forcing a brightness into my voice that I did not feel. Lily unbuckled her seatbelt. "I got you a drawing for Grandma," she said, clutching a slightly crumpled piece of construction paper. "That is perfect," I said. "Just remember what we talked about. We say please. We say thank you. And if things get loud or boring, you come find me. We are a team." "Team," she repeated. We walked up the flagstone path. The front door opened before we even rang the bell. My mother stood there, framed by the foyer light, wearing a cashmere cardigan that looked softer than a cloud and cost more than my mortgage payment. "Nora," she said. Her tone was warm, but her eyes did a quick, vertical scan of my outfit, finding a loose thread or a wrinkle I had missed. "And Lily, you are getting so tall." "Hi, Grandma," Lily said, holding out the drawing. "Oh, lovely," my mother said, taking it with 2 fingers as if it were sticky. "I will put this in the pile. Come in. Everyone is in the great room." The house smelled of cinnamon pine cones and expensive furniture polish. It was a scent that triggered a Pavlovian response in me. Spine straight, stomach tight, mouth shut. I noticed the changes immediately. My mother was not a subtle woman. She spoke in decor. The hallway leading to the great room had been redone. It was now a gallery wall, freshly painted in a stark, gallery white. Dozens of framed black and white photographs hung in a precise, geometric arrangement. I slowed down, my eyes darting across the images. There was Brendan's son, Tyler, holding a soccer trophy. There was Claire's daughter, Madison, in her ballet recital costume. There was Brendan's youngest in a pumpkin patch. There were professional studio portraits of the cousins together, laughing in matching white shirts and denim. I looked for the gap. I looked for the space where Lily should be. There was none. The wall was full. It was a complete narrative of the next generation, a visual history of the Hayes legacy, and my daughter was simply not in it. It was not that they had hung a bad photo of her, it was that they had constructed a reality where she did not exist. I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, a mix of humiliation and protective rage. I glanced down at Lily, but she was looking at her shoes, counting the tiles. She had not noticed, or maybe she had, and she had learned, like me, to pretend she didn't see the knife. I ushered her into the great room. The noise hit us first, the shrieks of 5 other children running loops around the sectional sofa. My siblings were standing by the wet bar, holding glasses of white wine. "Nora!" Brendan called out. His face was flushed, his smile a little too wide. He looked like a man who was trying very hard to convince everyone, including himself, that he was having a great time. "Long time no see. It has been 3 weeks. Brendan," I said, keeping my voice light. I scanned the room. There were cues everywhere, on the dining table, visible through the archway. Place settings were already laid out. Each seat had a calligraphy name tag. It seemed absurd for a family lunch, a level of formality that served only to enforce hierarchy. I saw the kids' table in the corner. "Lily, why don't you go say hi to Tyler and Madison?" I suggested. I watched her hesitate, then walk over to her cousins. They were huddled around a tablet, watching a video. When Lily approached, they didn't scoot over. She stood behind them, peering over their shoulders, a satellite orbiting a planet that didn't want a moon. I took a breath and walked to the bar. I poured myself a sparkling water. I needed a clear head. The afternoon proceeded with the grinding inevitability of a glacier. We ate lunch. The food was excellent and cold. My mother presided over the head of the table, asking pointed questions about grades and sports teams. She knew the schedules of every child there. When she got to Lily, she smiled vaguely. "And how is school, dear?" she asked. "Good," Lily said. "I got an A on my history project." "That is nice," my mother said, and immediately turned to Claire. "Did Madison get into that traveling dance troupe? I was telling the ladies at the club that she is a shoo-in." I focused on cutting my chicken. I was a surgeon of silence. I would not let them see me bleed. After lunch came the main event. This was the reason we were all summoned. The grandkids' celebration was my mother's way of redistributing her wealth in the most controlling way possible. She didn't write checks. She bought objects. Objects she could see. Objects she could ask about. "All right, everyone, gather round," my mother announced, clapping her hands. The children scrambled to the living room rug. They knew the drill. They sat in a semicircle, eyes wide. Lily sat on the edge, tucking her legs beneath her. My mother stood by the fireplace. Beside her was a stack of rectangular boxes, wrapped in heavy, silver paper. There were 5 of them, and one thin, flat envelope. My stomach dropped. I knew this game. I had played it my whole life. I have been thinking a lot about responsibility. My mother began. Her voice had that practiced, melodic quality she used when she was hosting charity auctions. "You are all getting older. You are becoming young adults, and young adults need the right tools to stay connected to their family." She picked up the first box. "Tyler, this is for you." Tyler tore into the paper. He gasped. "No way. No way." He held up the box. It was sleek, white, and unmistakable. "iPhone 17 Pro Max," he shouted. "The titanium one." The room erupted in varying degrees of jealousy and awe. My mother handed out the next one, Madison, then the next, then the next. 5 boxes, 5 identical, top-of-the-line phones. These were not cheap devices. These were status symbols. They were over $1,000 each. The children were screaming, holding the boxes up like trophies. Then, my mother turned to Lily, and for Lily, she said, her voice dropping an octave, becoming softer, sweeter. She held out the thin envelope. Lily took it. She smiled. A polite, trained smile that broke my heart. She opened the flap. Inside was a plastic gift card. It was generic. A Visa gift card. There was no amount written on it. "Thank you, Grandma," Lily said softly. My mother clasped her hands together. "I just did not know what your daughter would want." "Nora," she said, looking at me over the heads of the children. And well, since she has different interests, I thought she might like to pick out something small for herself. The room went quiet for a beat. The disparity was not just a gap, it was a canyon. 5 children held $5,000 worth of technology. My daughter held a piece of plastic that probably had $50 on it. "Oh," Lily said, her voice wavering slightly. "That is nice." I stepped forward. The anger in my chest was white-hot, but my face was a mask of pleasant indifference. "Wow, everyone looks so happy," I said, my voice steady. "Lily, that is great. You can save that for something special. Why don't you help Tyler set his up? You are so good with tech." I was redirecting. I was managing the crisis. I saw Lily's shoulders relax. She nodded and moved toward Tyler. But Tyler was busy. He was ripping the plastic off the box. He looked up at Lily, his eyes innocent and cruel in the way only children can be. "Grandma said you do not need one yet," he said. "Tyler!" Brendan hissed from the couch. Tyler ignored him. He looked at Lily with genuine confusion. "Grandma said it is because you are not on the plan." The room froze. On the plan? It was a strange phrase for a 10-year-old to use. It sounded administrative. It sounded like a direct quote. My mother laughed. A brittle, tinkling sound. "Oh, children say the funniest things. Tyler, hush now and enjoy your gift." I felt a cold clarity wash over me. This wasn't just about a phone. The plan wasn't a cellular service contract. It was a demarcation line. I waited until the boxes were opened, until the apps were being downloaded, until the chaos of setup had taken over the room. I waited until my mother went into the kitchen to check on the coffee. I followed her. The kitchen was pristine, smelling of dark roast and resentment. My mother was arranging biscotti on a platter. "Mom," I said. She didn't turn around. "Did you see how happy Madison was? She has been asking for that camera for months. You gave 5 of your grandchildren phones that cost more than my first car," I said, keeping my voice low. "And you gave my daughter a gift card." My mother turned then, her face arranging itself into a mask of wounded virtue. "Nora, really, do not make this about money. It is vulgar. It is not about money." I said, "It is about exclusion. You singled her out. In front of everyone, I am teaching values," she said, straightening the napkins. "Phones are a privilege. Lily is sensitive. I did not think she was ready for that kind of access. The internet is a dangerous place. So Tyler, who is younger than Lily, is ready?" I asked. "And Madison? And the twins? They are all ready. But Lily is the only one who needs to be protected from technology?" My mother sighed. A long, suffering exhale. "You always do this. You twist my generosity. I did not know what she would want. I am not around her enough to know. And whose fault is that? Nora?" The logic was dizzying. She shifted from teaching values to, "I don't know her," in the span of 10 seconds. "Then what did Tyler mean?" I asked, "when he said Lily is not on the plan." My mother froze. Just for a second. Her eyes flickered. "He is a child. Nora. He meant the phone plan. I added all the cousins to my family plan so I can monitor them. It is for safety. So add Lily." I said, "I will pay the difference." "It is not that simple," she snapped. "The slots are full. The account only takes 5 lines." The lie was so lazy it was almost insulting. "You could have opened a second line," I said, "or you could have discussed this with me beforehand so I could prepare her. Instead, you staged a show where she was the audience for everyone else's happiness." My mother slammed the biscotti jar down. "I will not be lectured in my own house after spending thousands of dollars on this family. You should be grateful she got anything." I looked at her, really looked at her. I saw the tightness in her jaw, the defensive glint in her eyes. She wasn't sorry. She was annoyed that I hadn't played along. "I am going to get coffee," I said, and walked out before I said something that would give her the ammunition she wanted. I walked back into the living room, my heart hammering. Brendan intercepted me near the hallway. He grabbed my elbow, his grip tight. "Let it go." "Nora," he muttered. I pulled my arm away. "Excuse me?" I heard you in there, he said, keeping his voice to a whisper. Don't embarrass Mom. Not today. She embarrassed my daughter. Brendan. She is under a lot of stress, he said, his eyes darting around to see if anyone was watching. You don't know everything that is going on. Just eat the biscotti, smile, and go home. People will talk if you make a scene. What people? I asked. It is just us. Brendan looked at me, and for a second, I saw fear in his eyes. Just don't poke the bear. Nora, please. There was something in his tone that stopped me. It wasn't just his usual conflict avoidance. It was a warning. He wasn't trying to protect the party. He was trying to prevent a detonation. I swallowed my rage. I looked over at Lily. She was sitting by herself on the window seat, staring out at the garden, the gift card envelope sitting untouched on the cushion beside her. Okay, I said to Brendan. Okay. I survived the next hour. I smiled. I drank the coffee. I praised the high-resolution cameras on the new phones. I played the role of the good daughter, the reliable sister, the unproblematic aunt. When we finally got back in the car, the relief was so intense I almost cried. I backed out of the driveway, waving to the family posing for a group photo on the porch, a photo I had conveniently been too busy packing the car to join. We drove in silence for a few miles. The sun was setting, casting long, bruised shadows across the manicured lawns of Briar Glen. You okay, Lil? I asked softly. Lily shrugged in the back seat. Yeah, it was okay. The food was good. I gripped the steering wheel. I am sorry about the phone. Honey, Grandma, she has weird ideas sometimes. It is okay, Lily said. I do not really care about the phone. She paused. But, Mom? Yeah. Baby? Grandma asked me something weird when I went to the bathroom. My internal radar pinged. What did she ask? She asked what my name is. I frowned, glancing at her in the mirror. She knows your name. Lily. No. She asked what my last name is. Like, officially. She asked if it was Hayes or if it was Dad's name. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. My divorce was messy, but my name had always been Hayes. I had kept it. Lily had a hyphenated name, but we mostly used Hayes socially. What did you tell her? I asked, keeping my voice level. I told her it is Hayes Miller, and she said, Oh, that is a technicality. A technicality. The word hung in the air, heavy and jagged. Did she say anything else? No. She just wrote something down in a little notebook and told me to go wash my hands. I stared at the road ahead. A technicality. Not on the plan. The exclusion from the photo wall. The gift card. This wasn't petty favoritism. This was an audit. We got home, and I went through the motions of the evening routine. Dinner, homework, shower. I tucked Lily into bed, kissing her forehead, lingering a little longer than usual. She was asleep within minutes. The resilience of childhood, winning out over the confusion of the day. I went into the living room and poured myself a glass of wine. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. It was a notification from the Hayes family group chat. Mom sent 8 photos. I picked up the phone. My mother had posted a series of professionally staged photos from the day. She must have had them edited immediately. There was a group shot of the cousins holding their new phones, looking ecstatic. Lily was not in it. There was a shot of the dinner table. Lily was obscured by a floral centerpiece. There was a wide shot of the living room. Lily was there, but she was cropped. Half of her shoulder was visible at the very edge of the frame, a ghostly presence on the periphery of the family joy. The caption read, So blessed to provide for my beautiful legacy, the future is bright. Family, First Briar Glen Legacy. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to type, Why did you crop her out? I wanted to type, What is the plan? Mom? I wanted to burn the digital thread to the ground, but I stopped. I remembered Brendan's face. You don't know everything that is going on. I remembered the word technicality. If I reacted now, I would just be the bitter, ungrateful daughter. I would be the drama. I would be playing the role she had written for me. I set the phone down. I walked to my home office and opened my laptop. I did not open my email. I opened a blank document. I typed the title in bold at the top. Lily, timeline. I began to type. October 14th, Briar Glen, annual celebration. Incident 1, photo wall, complete removal of Lily's presence. Incident 2, the gift, differential value approximately $1,100 versus estimated $50. Incident 3, statement by Tyler, cousin, not on the plan. Incident 4, question to Lily regarding official last name. Term used, technicality. Incident 5, social media, intentional cropping/exclusion from public records of the event. I stared at the screen. The cursor blinked, a steady, rhythmic heartbeat. I was not going to cry. I was not going to scream. I was a project manager. I solved problems. And my mother had just made the mistake of turning my daughter into a data point. I saved the file, then I closed the laptop, the click sounding like the chambering of a round. I was ready to pay attention. The next morning, I woke up with a headache that sat behind my eyes like a bruised fruit. The house was quiet. Lily was still asleep. I made coffee, standing in my small, sunlit kitchen, trying to shake the residue of Briar Glen. I needed to know if I was crazy. That was the thing about my mother. She operated in the plausible deniability zone. Maybe the photo wall really was just full. Maybe the phone plan really was capped at 5 lines. Maybe I was just the sensitive, divorced daughter looking for a fight. I needed a sanity check. I sat down at the kitchen island and pulled up the group chat again. I zoomed in on the photo of the cousins holding the phones. The boxes were turned toward the camera. Something caught my eye. I pinched the screen, expanding the image until the pixels started to blur. On the side of the box in Tyler's hand, there was a small, silver sticker. It wasn't the usual retail barcode. It was a QR code with a string of alphanumeric text beneath it. I frowned. That looked like an inventory tag. I checked the other boxes in the photo. Madison's had one too. These weren't bought at the Apple Store. These weren't bought at Best Buy. These were corporate procurement. My mother didn't work. She hadn't worked since 1990. My father had left her a substantial, but not infinite, portfolio. She spent her days on committees and garden clubs. Where did a retired socialite get 5 corporate-issue iPhones? I went back to my laptop and opened the timeline. Addendum to Incident 2. Devices appear to be corporate inventory, not retail. Source unknown. My phone buzzed again. It was Brendan. Hey, just checking in. Yesterday was intense. Hope you're not stewing. I stared at the message. Stewing, a word used for children and crazy women. I replied, all good, just a quiet Sunday. Thanks for the biscotti. Strategy. I needed to understand the landscape before I started dropping bombs. If there was a plan, and if my daughter was officially excluded from it, I needed to know what the plan was governing. Was it just phone data? Or was it the inheritance? The trust? The family name? My mother had asked about Lily's last name. Technicality. I pulled up a new tab and searched for Briar Glen Nonprofit Board Evelyn Hayes. The results populated instantly. My mother had been busy. Briar Glen Community Foundation. Board member appointment. Legacy Circle Gala. Hosted by Evelyn Hayes. The Hayes Family Scholarship Fund. I clicked on the scholarship fund link. It was a puff piece in the local digital gazette. There was a photo of my mother standing with the mayor. The article praised her commitment to the future and her devotion to her grandchildren, who are the light of her life. I scrolled down to the bottom of the article. There was a list of family ambassadors: Tyler Hayes, Madison Hayes. The list went on. 5 names. Lily was not there. I felt the air leave my lungs. This wasn't just a bad afternoon. This was public policy. My mother wasn't just being mean. She was building a brand. And for some reason, that brand required my daughter to be invisible. I took a screenshot. I added it to the timeline. The grief hit me then, sharp and sudden. I thought about Lily's little drawing. the one my mother had held with 2 fingers. I thought about how Lily had said team in the car. They were erasing her. I wiped a single tear from my cheek. "Okay, Mom," I whispered to the empty kitchen. "You want to play games with official records? Let's look at the records." I stood up and walked to the closet where I kept my file box. I needed my birth certificate. I needed my father's death certificate. I needed the divorce decree. I needed to see exactly who I was on paper and who my daughter was, because if there was a war coming, I wasn't going to bring a gift card. I was going to bring the receipts. But first, I had to survive the cleanup. I texted my mother. "Mom, thanks for hosting yesterday. The kids seemed to have a blast. Lily and I were thinking maybe we could do a special grandma-granddaughter day soon. Since she didn't get the tech setup time. Maybe you two could grab lunch? She'd love that. It was bait. I offered her a way to look like the good grandmother without the audience. I wanted to see if she would take it, or if her interest in Lily evaporated the moment the cameras were off. 3 dots appeared immediately. That sounds lovely. Nora, I am swamped this week with the foundation. But let's look at next month. I will have my assistant check the calendar. Kiss Lily for me. Next month. Assistant. She was pushing us to the margins. I didn't reply. I just logged the date. October 15th. Request for access denied/delayed. Reason. Foundation work. I closed the laptop. I heard Lily's door creak open. "Mom," she called out, sleepily. "I am here, baby." I called back. My voice strong, steady, and completely calm. "I am making pancakes." I wasn't just making pancakes. I was making a fortress, and I was the only guard on duty. I sat in my car in the parking lot of my office building. The engine idling, the air conditioner battling the humid warmth of late October. I had my phone in my hand, my thumb hovering over my mother's contact name. It was labeled simply Mother, a formality that had felt appropriate for years. The plan was simple. I was going to offer her a way out. I was going to give her a chance to rewrite the ending of the weekend without admitting she had ruined the beginning. I pressed the call button. It rang twice. "Nora?" Her voice was breathless, as if I had interrupted her in the middle of a sprint. "I am just heading into a board meeting. Is everything all right?" "Everything is fine," I said, keeping my voice pitched to a frequency of helpful. "Non-threatening daughter, I was just thinking about yesterday. I know it was chaotic with all the cousins, and I felt like you did not get a chance to really connect with Lily." There was a pause, a hesitation. I could hear the rustle of papers on her end. "It was a bit of a circus, wasn't it?" she said, letting out a small, performative laugh. "I was thinking," I continued, pressing on the gas of my strategy. "Why don't we do a do-over? Just you and Lily. You could take her to lunch this Saturday. Maybe go to that bookstore she likes. You mentioned you didn't know what she wanted. This way. She can pick something out herself, and you two can have a special memory." I waited for the resistance. I waited for the schedule conflict, the vague excuse about her health, the sigh about traffic. Instead, she answered almost immediately. "That is a wonderful idea. Nora, yes, let us do that. Saturday at noon? I will pick her up." I blinked, staring at the gray dashboard of my sedan. It was too easy. My mother never agreed to plans without modifying them first, changing the time, the location, or the guest list, just to establish that she was the one in control. This immediate compliance felt slippery. It felt like relief. "Great," I said, hiding my suspicion. "She will be ready." I hung up and stared at the phone. She wanted to smooth this over. She wanted the ungrateful grandchild narrative to disappear. Or perhaps she just wanted to make sure I stopped asking questions about phone plans and technicalities. I walked into my office, the fluorescent lights humming their usual tune of corporate stability. I worked in a glass-walled cube that overlooked a distribution center floor. My job was moving things from point A to point B without breakage. I was good at it because I anticipated bottlenecks. My mother was a bottleneck. At lunch, I met my friend Maya at a bistro down the street. Maya was a procurement specialist for a tech firm, a woman who spoke in spreadsheets and saw the world in terms of supply chain efficiencies. She was the only person outside the family I had told about the iPhone incident. I showed her the photo from the group chat, the one I had zoomed in on the night before. "Look at the box," I said, sliding my phone across the table. "Tyler's hand is covering part of it. But look at that sticker." Maya adjusted her glasses, squinting at the screen. She pinched and zoomed, her brow furrowing. "That is not a retail SKU," she said instantly. "See the format? INV-CORP. That is an internal asset tag." That is what I thought. I said, taking a bite of my salad, "My mother does not work. Maya, she has not had an employer since the Reagan administration. So where does she get 5 iPhones with corporate inventory tags?" Maya looked up, her expression serious. "Is she involved with any charities? NGOs? Sometimes they get bulk donations or tech grants. She just joined the board of the Briar Glen Community Foundation." I said, "She is obsessed with it." Maya nodded slowly. "If she is on the board, she might have access to procurement. But Nora, those devices are usually tracked. If she is handing them out to grandkids, that is misappropriation. Or at the very least, it is an employee perk program she is stretching the definition of." "An employee program," I repeated. The phrase clicked into place with what Tyler had said. "Not on the plan. If these were company phones, they would be on a corporate master plan, a managed service provider plan. You couldn't just add a random 10-year-old's line to a secure corporate account without IT approval." "That explains why she couldn't add Lily," I said, feeling the puzzle pieces locked together. It was not that she didn't want to pay for it, it was that she couldn't authorize it. "But why give them to the others?" Maya shrugged. "Maybe she has 5 slots. Maybe she called in a favor. But Nora, if these are corporate assets, they are monitored. They have mobile device management software on them. She can see where they are. She can see what they download." A chill went down my spine. My mother had framed it as teaching values. But if Maya was right, she had handed my nieces and nephews tracking devices controlled by a system she had access to, and Lily was the only one off the grid. In the past, that would have hurt. Today, it felt like a reprieve. I spent the rest of the week digging. I did not dig with a shovel. I dug with a search engine and public records. The Briar Glen Community Foundation was more than just a local charity. It was a heavyweight. They managed donor-advised funds for the wealthiest families in the county. My mother's name was plastered all over their recent Legacy Circle gala. I found her bio on the leadership page. It was a masterpiece of creative nonfiction. Evelyn Hayes is a pillar of the Briar Glen community, a devoted matriarch to her 3 children and 6 grandchildren. She is passionate about securing the future for the next generation. 6 grandchildren. I counted them in my head. Tyler, Madison, the twins, Brendan's baby, and Lily. 6. She was claiming Lily in the count. She was using the number 6 to bolster her image as the prolific grandmother. But in practice, in the photos, in the gifts, in the plan, there were only 5. Lily was a statistic for the bio, but a ghost in the room. By Friday night, I had prepared Lily for the special day. I framed it carefully. I told her Grandma wanted some one-on-one time because the party had been too loud. Lily, sweet and forgiving, had been excited. She laid out her outfit, a floral dress and her favorite denim jacket. Saturday morning arrived with a gray drizzle. At 11:30, 30 minutes before pickup, my phone pinged. It was my mother, Nora. "Darling, I am devastated. The foundation chairman just called. An emergency donor lunch has popped up. I simply cannot say no. We are talking about a major endowment. I have to rain check. Give Lily a hug." I stared at the screen. I knew this was a lie. Donor lunches were not scheduled at 11:30 on a Saturday morning on a whim. This was a power move. She had agreed to the plan to make me feel heard. And now she was canceling to remind me that her time was more valuable than my daughter's feelings. I typed back, "She is dressed and waiting by the door. Mom." I wanted her to see the image. I wanted her to feel the weight of a 10-year-old girl sitting on a bench, smoothing her skirt, checking the clock. My mother replied with a single emoji, a yellow smiley face with hearts. Then, a second message. Sent her something to make up for it. I heard Lily's iPad chime from the living room. I walked in. Lily was sitting on the sofa, her shoes already on. She looked at the screen of her tablet, her face crumpling in slow motion. "Grandma can't come?" she asked, her voice small. "No, baby," I said, sitting down next to her and pulling her into my side. "She got stuck in a meeting. It is not your fault. She is just very busy with work." Lily looked down at the iPad. She sent me a link. I looked at the screen. It was a YouTube video. The title was The Power of Gratitude: How to Be Happy with What You Have. It was a motivational cartoon about a bear who learns not to be jealous of the other animals' honeypots. The insult was so precise it took my breath away. She canceled on a child and sent a lecture on gratitude as a consolation prize. "She thinks I am jealous," Lily whispered, "because of the phones." "No," I said fiercely, closing the iPad cover. "She does not think that. She is just confused, and we are going to go get ice cream, and we are going to the bookstore, and we are going to buy whatever book you want. I am buying." I took her out. We laughed. We ate mint chocolate chip ice cream, but beneath my smile, I was cataloging this. This was incident number 6, and this one was not passive. This was active cruelty. Monday morning. The atmosphere at work was heavy. The air conditioning was humming. But the office felt stifled. I walked to the break room to get coffee. Elena, a coordinator in my department, was stirring sugar into her mug. She looked up when I entered, and her eyes darted away, then back to me. It was the look people give you when they have been talking about you. "Hey, Nora," she said, her voice a little too high. "How was your weekend?" "Fine," I said, reaching for a K-cup. "Quiet. That is good," she said. She paused, tapping her spoon against the ceramic. "Hey, can I ask you something?" "Weird question." "Sure." Elena lowered her voice. Stepping closer, I heard something weird from the accounting team. "You know Dave? He plays golf at the Briar Glen Club." I froze. My mother was a member of that club. My brother Brendan played there too. "What about Dave?" I asked, keeping my hands steady as I lowered the lever on the coffee machine. He was saying, "Well, he heard a rumor that you guys are having some family trouble, that you are difficult." "Difficult?" I repeated. Elena winced. "He said the word on the street is that you are having financial trouble and you are always demanding money from your mom, and that she is, heartbroken about it." The coffee machine hissed, filling the silence with dark liquid. "I have never asked my mother for a dime." I said quietly, "Not since I was 22. "I know," Elena said quickly. I told him that. I said, "Nora runs a $2 million logistics budget. She is the most organized person I know." But he said his source was solid, like family solid. I felt the blood drain from my face. This was not just gossip. This was a strike against my professional reputation. I worked in logistics. I managed budgets. If a rumor started circulating that I was financially unstable or demanding money, it could affect my security clearance. It could affect my promotions. My mother was exporting the narrative. She was planting seeds in Briar Glen that were blowing into my workplace. "Thanks for telling me." "Elena," I said. I grabbed my mug. "It is just family drama. You know how it is." I walked back to my desk, my legs feeling like lead. I opened my Lily timeline document. October 21st, professional sabotage. Rumor circulating at work via country club network. Allegation: Nora is financially unstable/extortionist. This was escalating. She wasn't just excluding Lily. She was discrediting me. If I ever tried to speak up, she was preloading the jury. "Oh, do not listen to Nora. She is just bitter because I cut her off." I needed to know why. You do not destroy your daughter's reputation just because she asked for a do-over lunch. You do it because you are hiding something, and you need to destroy the witness. The answer arrived on Wednesday. carried by the United States Postal Service. I got home late. The mail was sitting on the kitchen counter, a stack of flyers and bills. I sifted through it absent-mindedly while heating up leftover pasta for Lily. Then I saw it. It was a thick, ivory envelope, high-quality paper. The return address was Standard Life Trust, a financial institution I didn't bank with, but it was the addressee that stopped me. Mrs. Evelyn Hayes, care of Nora Hayes. 12 Maple Terrace. It was addressed to my mother, but it had come to my house. I stared at it. Why would my mother have mail sent here? I had lived in this house for 4 years. She had her own sprawling estate, unless the account was old enough that it predated my divorce, old enough that my address was somehow listed as a secondary contact or a care of address from a time when I helped her with paperwork years ago. I knew I shouldn't open it. It was a federal crime to open someone else's mail, but the window of the envelope showed a line of text above the name. Important. Beneficiary alignment action required. I held the envelope up to the light. I couldn't read the text inside, but I could see it was a form. I thought about the rumor at work, always demanding money. I thought about the corporate iPhones. I thought about Lily standing in the living room, watching the bear learn about gratitude. I went to the drawer and took out a letter opener. I slid the blade under the flap. I told myself I was just checking to see if it was urgent so I could run it over to her. I pulled out the letter. It was a Notice of Dormant Account Activity and Beneficiary Review. Dear Mrs. Hayes, we are writing regarding the trust account ending in 4922, originally established by Mr. Robert Hayes. Our records indicate that beneficiary designations require update to comply with the 2025 Family Asset Protection Standards. Current beneficiary structure. Primary, Evelyn Hayes. Spouse. Secondary, Nora Hayes. Daughter, contingent, Lily Hayes Miller. Granddaughter. I stopped breathing. Contingent, Lily. Hayes Miller, my father. My father who died 6 years ago. He had set this up. I scanned down the page. There was a list of authorized family representatives who had access to view the account. Brendan Hayes, Claire Hayes. My name was listed as a beneficiary, but not as a representative. I had no access. I couldn't see the balance. I couldn't see the activity. But the letter was asking for a beneficiary alignment. It was asking to confirm that the listed beneficiaries were still valid. And there was a handwritten note in the margin, photocopied from a previous form included in the packet. It was my mother's handwriting. Spiky, elegant, aggressive. Note to file. Please remove contingent beneficiary L. Hayes Miller. Status under review due to estrangement. Estrangement. She had written that. She had told the bank that Lily, my 10-year-old daughter who drew her pictures and waited for her on Saturdays, was estranged. That was how she was doing it. She was removing Lily from the trust, and to do that, she had to prove that Lily wasn't part of the family unit. The exclusion from the photos, the refusal to give her a family plan phone, the not on the plan comment. It wasn't about being mean. It was about creating a body of evidence. If she could show the bank a year's worth of family events where Lily wasn't present or wasn't treated as a member, she could argue that the relationship didn't exist. She was stealing my daughter's inheritance by erasing her existence. I put the letter down. My hands were shaking so hard the paper rattled against the granite counter. I took a picture of the document, then I took a picture of the envelope, then I taped it back shut. It looked opened. But I didn't care. I needed to talk to Brendan. Now. I drove to Brendan's house. He lived in a gated development 10 minutes away. His truck was in the driveway. I rang the bell. He answered in sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking tired. "Nora?" he said. Surprised. "Is everything okay?" "We need to talk." I said, "Outside." He stepped onto the porch, closing the door behind him. "What is going on? You look like you saw a ghost." "I saw a letter." "Brendan," I said, keeping my voice low, "from Standard Life Trust. It came to my house by mistake." His face went pale. In the porch light, he looked suddenly very young and very guilty. "Oh," he said, that You are an authorized representative on that account, I said. You see the statements. Nora, listen. You knew. I cut him off. You knew Dad left a trust with Lily named as a contingent, and you knew Mom is trying to remove her. He rubbed the back of his neck, looking anywhere but at me. It is not like that. Nora, Mom says the account structure is complicated. She says if Lily is listed, it triggers some kind of tax audit because of your divorce settlement. She is trying to protect the principal. My divorce was finalized 2 years ago. I said, it has nothing to do with Dad's trust. That is a lie, Brendan, and you know it. He sighed. A heavy, wet sound. Look, Mom controls the disbursements, okay? She helps us out. She pays for the kids' private school. She covers the truck lease. She said if we rock the boat, the funds get frozen. So you let her erase my daughter? I asked, my voice trembling. You let her treat Lily like a stranger so you can drive a nice truck? It is not about the phone. Nora, he snapped, his voice rising. It is about what Mom can't risk you claiming. If you find out how much is in there, and you try to take your share now, the whole thing collapses. She needs to keep you. Managed? The word hung in the humid air. Is that what the rumors are? I asked. The demanding money story? Is that part of the management? To make me look greedy so no one believes me if I ask for my legal share? Brendan looked down at his feet. I told her not to do that. I told her it was mean. But you know Mom, once she gets a narrative in her head. He looked up at me, his eyes pleading. Just don't fight her. Nora, she will burn it all down before she lets you win. Just let Lily be. Apart. It is safer for her. I looked at my brother. I saw the weakness in him, the golden handcuffs my mother had snapped around his wrists. He wasn't evil. He was just bought. I am not going to fight her. Brendan, I said, my voice ice cold. I am going to stop her. I turned and walked back to my car. The law offices of Sterling Vance were located in a glass tower in the city center. Far away from the manicured gossip of Briar Glen, I had an appointment with Mr. Sterling, a family law attorney recommended by a colleague. I sat in his office, the leather chair cool against my back. I laid out the timeline. I showed him the photo of the letter. I told him about the phones, the inventory tags, the rumors. Mr. Sterling was a man in his 60s with silver hair and eyes that had seen every variation of family betrayal. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back, tenting his fingers. You have a complex situation. Ms. Hayes, he said, but the pattern is clear. This is what we call constructive disinheritance. Beneficiary alignment? I asked. It is a term used to clean up accounts, usually for ex-spouses or deceased relatives, he explained, using it to remove a grandchild on the grounds of estrangement, while simultaneously manufacturing that estrangement. That is fraud, or at the very least, a breach of fiduciary duty if she is the trustee. Can I sue her? I asked. You could, he said, but litigation is public. It is expensive, and based on what you've told me about her concern for image, she will fight you with everything she has. She will drag your name and your daughter's name through the mud to justify her actions. She will make the unstable daughter rumor a matter of court record. I nodded. I knew that. I couldn't do that to Lily. So what do? We treat this like a corporate hostile takeover. Mr. Sterling said. We do not scream. We document. He slid a notepad toward me. 3 steps, he said. 1. Request information in writing. Do not ask why she's doing this. Ask what exists. Ask for copies of the trust instrument. You are a named beneficiary. You have a statutory right to see it. 2. Avoid accusations. Never tell her you know she is lying. Never tell her you know about the scheme. Let her commit to her lies in writing. If she says, Lily isn't included because of X, save that email. When we prove X is false, that email becomes evidence of intent. 3. Preserve everything. The photos, the texts, the rumors. He looked me in the eye. You are not a daughter anymore. Nora, in this transaction, you are a creditor, and she is a debtor who is trying to hide assets. treat her like a hostile workplace. I left his office feeling a strange mixture of empowerment and devastation. I had a plan. I had a strategy. But the cost was acknowledging that my mother was my enemy. That night, I sat at my kitchen table. Lily was asleep. The house was silent. I opened my laptop. I drafted an email. Subject: Family Trust/Account Inquiry. Dear Mom, I hope you are having a good week. I am doing some estate planning of my own for Lily, and my financial advisor asked if there were any existing family trusts or accounts where I'm named as a beneficiary. I recall Dad mentioning a trust years ago. Could you please send me the documentation for any accounts established by Dad where I or Lily are listed? I just need to make sure my own records are aligned. Thanks. Nora. It was polite. It was professional. It was the non-drama step the lawyer had advised. I hit send. I watched the clock. It was 8:45 p.m. At 8:48, my phone buzzed. Mom replied. I opened the email. Nora, what a strange and hurtful question. I am sitting here trying to organize the holiday charity drive, and I get this formal demand from you about money? There is no trust that you need to worry about. Your father left everything to me to manage for the family, as he should have. I take care of everyone, as I always have. Honestly, I am worried about you. You seem obsessed with finances lately. Is everything okay at work? Do you need help? Please do not let your anxiety affect Lily. She needs a stable mother. Love, Mom. I stared at the screen. It was a masterclass. She denied the trust. Lie. She shamed me for asking. Hurtful. She deflected to her own virtue. Charity drive. She brought up the rumor she started. Obsessed with finances. She threatened my parenting. Lily needs a stable mother. She was gaslighting me in real time. But this time, I didn't cry. I didn't call Brendan. I looked at the phrase, "There is no trust that you need to worry about." She had just put the lie in writing. I took a screenshot. I saved it to the Lily Taz timeline folder. Then I opened the photo of the letter from Standard Life Trust, the one that explicitly named the trust she just claimed didn't exist. I had her. She thought she was scolding a child. She didn't realize she was handing evidence to a prosecutor. I closed the laptop. Okay, Mom, I thought, you want to talk about stability? Let's see how stable you are when the truth comes out. The following days were an exercise in pattern recognition. I felt less like a daughter and more like a detective staring at a wall covered in red string. I sat in my living room late one Tuesday night, the house silent except for the hum of the refrigerator, and I looked at my laptop screen. The timeline document was open. It was not a collection of accidents. It was a system. The public praise for the other grandchildren, the Facebook posts about Tyler's soccer goals, the Instagram stories of Madison's dance recitals, was the bright, shiny object. It was designed to draw the eye. It created a public record of a loving, involved grandmother, the private minimization of Lily, the generic gift card, the exclusion from the photo wall, the canceled lunch, was the shadow. It was quiet. It was deniable. If I complained, I looked petty. Oh, Nora is upset about a gift card. Nora is jealous of a photo. And the third pillar, the one that held the roof up, was the narrative of my instability, the rumors at my office, the whispers to the family. Nora is difficult. Nora is demanding money. I realized then that the iPhone incident hadn't been a blunder. It had been a stress test. My mother had handed out 5 extravagant gifts and 1 insult to see if I would explode. If I had made a scene at the party, screaming and crying, I would have proven her point. I would have been the unstable daughter ruining a family celebration. By staying calm, I had confused the data, but I hadn't stopped the machine. The machine was still running. On Wednesday, I ran into Mr. Henderson at the local gourmet grocery store. Mr. Henderson had lived next door to my parents for 30 years. He was a retired actuary, a man who spoke in slow, precise sentences and wore cardigans regardless of the weather. "Nora," he said, pausing his cart by the cheese display, "it is good to see you. How is the little one? She is 10. Mr. Henderson, I said, smiling. Not so little anymore. Time. He sighed. It is a thief. I was just thinking about your father the other day. Robert was a good man. He was. I agreed. I missed my father. He had been the quiet counterbalance to my mother's performative energy. He was the one who taught me how to read a map and how to change a tire. You know, Mr. Henderson said, leaning in slightly. He used to talk to me over the fence when he was gardening. Towards the end, he was very focused on getting his affairs in order. He was adamant that your share be protected. I froze. My hand hovered over a block of aged cheddar. My share? I asked. Yes, Mr. Henderson said. He told me, I have to make sure Nora is secure. Evelyn has her own way of doing things, and I want to make sure Nora is not. He paused, searching for the word. Overlooked. That was the word he used. Overlooked. My parents had always told us there was nothing to inherit. They lived well. They traveled. They belonged to clubs. The narrative was that they were spending it all, and we should expect nothing. I had accepted that. I had built my own career. My own life. He said he set something up. Mr. Henderson continued. I assumed it was all settled years ago. It is complicated, I said, my voice tight. But thank you for telling me that. I walked away from the cheese display with my heart hammering against my ribs. Overlooked. My father had predicted this. He had known my mother well enough to build a failsafe, and for 6 years, my mother had been dismantling it. When I got home, I didn't go to my mother. I went to the county records website. If my father had a will, it would have been probated. It was a public record. I had never asked to see it before because I trusted my mother. I had signed whatever waivers she put in front of me, believing her when she said they were standard formalities to close out the estate. I submitted a formal request for a copy of the last will and testament of Robert Hayes. I paid the $15 fee. I received a confirmation email. 2 hours later, my phone buzzed. It was the family group chat. My mother had posted a text image. It was a quote, set against a background of storm clouds. The greatest sorrow of a mother is to see greed take root in her children's hearts. Entitlement is a poison that destroys families. Below it, she added, feeling very heavy-hearted today, praying for clarity for those who have lost their way. She knew. Somehow, she knew I had requested the will. Maybe the family attorney had alerted her. Maybe she had an alert set up on the estate docket. Brendan replied instantly with a heart emoji. Claire replied, Love you, Mom. Ignore the negativity. They didn't know what I had done, but they knew the script. When Mom posts about greed, you pledge allegiance. I did not reply. I let the accusation sit there. I was done defending myself against ghosts. That evening, I went to pick up Lily from a play date at her cousin Madison's house. Claire met me at the door. She looked tired, holding a glass of wine. Come in for a second, Claire said. The girls are just finishing a movie. I walked into Claire's living room. It was a mirror image of our mother's style. Neutral tones, expensive textures, everything in its place. On the coffee table, Claire's iPad was propped up. It was displaying a slideshow of family photos. I glanced at it while Claire went to the kitchen to get Lily's backpack. The photos cycled through. There was the Christmas trip to the cabin I hadn't been invited to. There was the Easter brunch where Lily had been sick. Then I saw the interface. It was an app called KinConnect. We all used it. It was where we uploaded photos for Grandma. I tapped the screen. The menu bar appeared. I saw a folder labeled Grandkids. Approved. I frowned. Approved? I tapped the folder. Inside were hundreds of photos of Tyler, Madison, the twins, and Brendan's baby. They were high resolution, edited, perfect. I looked for Lily. There were no photos of Lily in the approved folder. I navigated back to the main menu. I saw a settings gear. I shouldn't have clicked it, but the urge to know was a physical pull. I clicked album settings. There was a toggle switch next to a folder named Lily. The toggle was set to hidden from main feed. And below that, under user permissions, my name, Nora Hayes, was set to contributor, while everyone else was set to admin. My mother had set the app to automatically filter Lily out of the main slideshow that played on her digital frames and her TV, and she had restricted my view so I wouldn't notice that my uploads were going into a digital void. It was curated exclusion. She wasn't just ignoring Lily, she was editing her out of the visual history of the family in real time. "Mom?" Lily's voice came from the hallway. I pulled my hand back as if the screen were hot. "Hey, baby," I said, turning around. "Ready to go?" I hugged Claire goodbye. I didn't mention the app. I couldn't. If I did, she would just say it was a glitch. She would say I was being paranoid, but I knew. The red string on my mental wall connected another pin. Dr. Evans, my therapist, was a woman who believed in radical candor and tactical communication. She sat across from me in her small office, holding a notepad. "So, Doctor," Evans summarized, "we have financial dishonesty, social exclusion, and now digital erasure. And you want to have a conversation with her?" "I have to." I said, "I cannot just let this slide. If I do not set a boundary now, she will think she has won. She will think she can treat Lily like a second-class citizen forever." "Okay, Doctor," Evans said. "But we need a plan. You cannot go in there asking for an apology. You will not get one. This woman has spent years constructing a reality where she is the benevolent matriarch, and you are the problem. She will not dismantle that reality just because you ask nicely. So what do? We focus on behavior." "Doctor," Evans said, "not character, not history, behavior, and we focus on Lily's emotional safety." She wrote on her pad, "Rule 1. No jade. Do not justify, argue, defend, or explain. You state the fact, and you state the consequence. Rule 2. Keep it specific. Do not say you are always mean to Lily. Say you gave everyone else a phone and gave Lily a gift card. That signaled to Lily that she is less important. Rule 3. Propose a measurable change." "What is the change?" I asked. "Equal treatment." "Doctor," Evans said, "publicly and privately, if she buys 5 gifts, she buys 6. If she posts 5 names, she posts 6. And if she cannot do that, you will not attend the events." I felt a knot of anxiety in my stomach. The thought of telling my mother no was terrifying. It went against 3 decades of conditioning. "You can do this. Nora." "Doctor," Evans said gently, "you are not doing it for you. You are doing it for the girl who got a gift card." I nodded. "For Lily." I drove to my mother's house on Saturday morning. The driveway was empty. The house looked imposing, a fortress of brick and ivy. My mother answered the door in her gardening clothes, pristine khakis and a sun hat. "Nora," she said, surprised. "I was not expecting you. I need to talk to you." "Mom," I said, "can I come in?" She hesitated, then stepped back. "Of course, I was just about to have tea." We sat in the sunroom. The light was filtering through the glass, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. It was a beautiful room, designed for comfort, but the air felt thin. I took a breath. I mentally rehearsed Dr. Evans's script. "Mom," I said, "I want to talk about the party last week." She sighed, setting her cup down with a sharp clink. "Oh, Nora, are we still on this? I thought we moved past it." "We did not," I said, steadying my voice. "I need to tell you how that impacted Lily. When you gave the other children phones and gave Lily a gift card, it made her feel excluded. It made her feel like she is not part of this family in the same way the others are." My mother's face crumpled. It was instantaneous. Her eyes filled with tears. Her chin trembled. "I cannot believe you are saying this," she choked out. "I do everything for this family. I slave over these events. And you come into my house and accuse me of hurting my own granddaughter? I am not accusing you of intent, Mom," I said, sticking to the script. "I am telling you the result. The result was that Lily felt less than—" "I did not know what she wanted," she wailed, pulling a handkerchief from her pocket. You never tell me anything. You are so secretive. That is not the issue, I said. The issue is the disparity. Fine, she snapped, the tears vanishing as quickly as they had appeared. Her voice turned hard. Fine. You want her to have a phone? I will go out and buy her an iPhone 17 tomorrow. Is that what you want? You want me to spend the money? I will write you a check right now. She reached for her purse. No, I said. She stopped. What? I do not want you to buy her a phone to shut me up. I said. I want to know why you didn't buy her one in the first place. I told you, she shouted. She is not on the plan. Why? I asked. Why is she not on the plan? You could have added a line. You could have made it work. Why is she the only one who is not on the plan? Because then it becomes official, she screamed. The silence that followed was absolute. My mother froze. Her hand was halfway to her purse. Her eyes widened. Realizing what she had just said, I sat very still. Official. I repeated softly. She blinked rapidly, trying to reload her defenses. I meant it becomes an official bill, a monthly expense. I am on a fixed income. Nora, I have to be careful, but the lie was clumsy. We both knew it. It becomes official, I said, testing the weight of the words. I stood up. Thank you for the tea. Mom, where are you going? She demanded. Standing up, I said I would buy the phone. It is not about the phone, I said. I walked out of the sunroom. I walked out of the house. I got into my car and locked the doors. My hands were shaking, because then it becomes official. She wasn't talking about a phone bill. She was talking about a status. If Lily was on the family plan, whether that was a phone contract, a photo album, or a trust document, she was officially a Hayes. She was a documented member of the unit, and for some reason, my mother needed Lily to be undocumented. I drove straight to the library. I needed a quiet place to think. I found a corner table and took out my notebook. Official. What did that word mean in a legal sense? It meant beneficiary status. It meant insurance coverage. It meant inheritance rights. If Lily was officially part of the family structure, maybe it triggered the beneficiary alignment the bank letter had mentioned. Maybe my father's trust had a clause. Any grandchild who is a recognized dependent or beneficiary of the family estate, by keeping Lily off the phone plan, off the photo wall, off the donor list. My mother was building a case for estrangement. She was building a case that Lily was not a recognized member of the family circle. If the trust said, funds to be distributed to active family members, my mother was ensuring Lily didn't qualify. The phone was a symbol. It was a tracking device. Yes, but it was also a membership card, and my mother had denied Lily entry. I called Mr. Sterling, the attorney. I need to send a letter. I told him, to Standard Life Trust. Good, he said. We will draft a formal inquiry. We will not ask for favors. We will assert your rights as a named party in the original instrument. We will demand a full accounting of the trust created by Robert Hayes. Will she find out? I asked. She is the trustee. Mr. Sterling said, she will be notified immediately. Do it, I said. The letter went out on Monday via certified mail. On Thursday, the counterstrike arrived. I was sitting at my desk at work, reviewing a shipping manifest for a shipment of solar panels. My office phone rang. Nora Hayes. I answered. Ms. Hayes, this is Janet from Human Resources. Could you please come down to my office? My stomach dropped. HR never called for good news. I walked down the hallway, the fluorescent lights feeling too bright. I entered Janet's office. She was a woman I had known for 5 years, usually warm and chatty. Today, she did not smile. Please close the door, she said. I sat down. Nora, she began, looking at a file on her desk. We received a complaint this morning via our anonymous ethics hotline. A complaint? I asked. About my work? No, she said. It is regarding personal conduct that reflects on the company's reputation. She slid a piece of paper across the desk. It was a transcript of a call. Caller states that employee Nora Hayes is currently engaging in the harassment and financial abuse of an elderly relative. Caller alleges that Ms. Hayes is using company time and resources to intimidate her mother into providing funds. Caller claims Ms. Hayes has unstable behavior and may be a risk to workplace safety. I stared at the words. Harassment, financial abuse, unstable. This is a lie, I whispered. Janet looked uncomfortable. Nora, you know we have a zero-tolerance policy for harassment, and while private matters are usually private, the caller mentioned that you have been using company devices to send threatening emails. I have never sent a threatening email in my life, I said, my voice shaking. Janet, this is my mother, or my siblings. We are in a dispute over my father's will. They are trying to discredit me. Janet sighed. Look, I have to investigate. That is the policy. I need you to provide clarification. I need to see your work email logs. And I need to ask you, is there any truth to the claim that you are in financial distress? I felt the room spin. They had exported the conflict. My mother, or Brendan, or someone acting on their orders, had called my employer. They were willing to risk my job, my health insurance, my ability to feed my daughter, just to stop me from asking about the trust. It was nuclear warfare. I am not in financial distress. I said, sitting up straighter, I am a victim of constructive disinheritance, and my family is retaliating because I hired a lawyer. Janet blinked. I will provide you with my email logs. I said, you will see nothing but work correspondence. And I will provide you with a letter from my attorney explaining the context of this harassment. Because that is what this is. Janet, I am being harassed. By them. Okay, Janet said slowly. If you can provide that documentation, we can close the file. But Nora, this is serious. If they keep calling, I know. I said, I know. I walked back to my desk. I felt cold all over. I had thought this was a family spat. I had thought it was about feelings and fairness. It wasn't. It was about survival. My mother was not just a controlling matriarch. She was a tactician. She knew that if I lost my job, I would lose the money for the lawyer. I would be too busy scrambling for rent to worry about a trust fund. She was trying to break my supply line. I sat at my desk and opened the Lily timeline, November 2nd, employment threat, anonymous call to HR, alleging elder abuse, objective, financial destabilization of Nora. I typed it out. My fingers hit the keys hard. I was not going to break. I picked up my cell phone. I opened the contacts. I scrolled to Mother. I didn't call her. Instead, I opened my banking app. I transferred $5,000 from my savings to my checking. It was my emergency fund. I called Mr. Sterling. Mr. Sterling. I said when he answered, yes. Nora? They just tried to get me fired. I said, I see, he said, his voice grim. The escalation has begun. I want to file the request for the bank records. I said, but I want to add something. What is that? I want to request a full audit of the family representative expenditures for the last 6 years. That is aggressive. Mr. Sterling warned, that is declaring war. They just bombed my office. Mr. Sterling, I said, we are past declaring war. We are in the trenches. Do it. I hung up. I looked at the photo of Lily on my desk. She was smiling, holding a pumpkin from last Halloween. She didn't know that her grandmother was trying to erase her. She didn't know her mother was fighting for her life in a glass cube. I touched the glass of the frame. I will fix this. Lily, I whispered. I will fix it. I packed up my bag. I walked out of the office with my head high. I smiled at the receptionist. I waved to the security guard. I drove home. I made dinner. I helped Lily with her math homework. And when she went to sleep, I went into the closet in the hallway. I pulled out a box of old papers. If my mother wanted to talk about official records, I was going to find every single official record that proved Lily existed. Birth announcements, baptismal records where my mother was present, birthday cards signed by her. I was going to build a mountain of evidence. And then, I was going to drop it on her head. The conference room in Human Resources was windowless. A sterile box of gray carpet and beige walls designed to suck the emotion out of any crisis. I sat on one side of the laminate table. Janet, the HR director, sat on the other. Between us lay a thick manila folder. I had not slept well in 3 days, but I had dressed with military precision. A navy blazer, a crisp white blouse, my hair pulled back into a tight, severe bun. I did not look like a woman unraveling. I did not look like the harasser described in the anonymous complaint. I looked like a project manager. Here is the documentation you requested. Janet, I said, sliding the folder across the table. Janet opened it. I watched her eyes scan the first page. It was a summary table, color-coded, date, time, incident, evidence. I had cataloged everything: the timeline of the gift incident, the screenshot of the not on the plan text, the photo of the misdirected bank letter, the email where my mother claimed the trust did not exist, and most importantly, the log of my own communications, every email, every text, every call. As you can see, I said, keeping my voice pitched low and steady, there is zero record of me demanding money. There is zero record of me threatening anyone. In fact, the record shows that I have been asking for clarity on legal documents to which I am a named party, and the response has been personal attacks and evasion. Janet turned the page. She stopped at the screenshot of my mother's email. What a strange and hurtful question. This is the harassment? Janet asked. Looking up, that is the response to a standard inquiry about a trust fund. I said, Janet, I am going to be very direct. My family is currently engaged in a financial dispute regarding my late father's estate. They know that my employment is my lifeline. This complaint was not filed by a concerned colleague. It was filed by someone who wants to cut that lifeline to force me into submission. I paused, letting the weight of the accusations settle in the recycled air. I have included a letter from my attorney, Mr. Sterling. On the last page, he outlines the nature of the dispute and offers to speak with legal counsel if the company requires further context. Janet flipped to the back. She read the letter. I saw her shoulders drop an inch. The tension in her jaw released. She wasn't looking at a liability anymore. She was looking at a victim who had done her homework. Nora, she said, closing the folder. This is extensive. I manage logistics. Janet, I said, I do not leave things to chance. She nodded slowly. I can see that. Look, the complaint came in through the third-party ethics line. We had to investigate, but given what you have provided, specifically the lack of any corroborating evidence on our servers, I am going to close this file as unsubstantiated. Thank you. I said, but, Nora, she added, leaning forward, if they call again, I said, cutting her off gently. My attorney will handle it as tortious interference with a business relationship. It will not blow back on the company. I promise you that. I walked out of that room feeling lighter, but also colder. I had won the skirmish, but the war was getting dirty. My mother had tried to starve me out. She had tried to humiliate me professionally, and because she had failed, I knew she would try to hug me to death next. The invitation arrived 2 days later. It was heavy. Cream-colored cardstock with gold foil lettering. It looked like a wedding invitation, but it was a summons. The Briar Glen Community Foundation cordially invites you to the annual Legacy Gala, honoring our pillars of community special recognition for the Hayes family. I held the card in my kitchen, staring at the calligraphy. My mother was being honored, and she had sent an invitation to my house. There was a handwritten note on the back, in her distinct, spiky script. Nora, I know things have been tense. Please come. It would mean the world to the family to have everyone together for this honor. Let us put the past behind us. For Dad's legacy, love, Mom, I laughed, a dry, humorless sound. For Dad's legacy, the audacity was breathtaking. She was erasing his wishes, hiding his trust, and now she wanted to use his name to drag me onto a stage. I knew exactly what this was. It was a trap. If I didn't go, I was the bitter, estranged daughter who couldn't support her mother's big moment. I would prove the rumors right. See? Nora is so difficult. She won't even come to the charity gala. If I did go, I was walking into her arena. She would hug me in front of the donors. She would perform forgiveness. She would neutralize me with public affection, making it impossible for me to demand accountability without looking like a monster. I picked up my phone and called Maya. "Are you busy on Saturday night?" I asked. Maya didn't miss a beat. "Do I need to wear heels or combat boots?" "Heels," I said, "but bring the attitude of the boots. We are going to a gala." The Briar Glen Country Club was a monument to old money and new anxiety. The ballroom was draped in white chiffon and bathed in amber light. A string quartet played pop covers in the corner. The air smelled of expensive perfume and roast beef. I wore a black dress. It was simple, sharp, and armored. I had spent extra time on my makeup, ensuring that not a trace of stress showed on my face. Maya stood beside me, a sentinel in emerald green. "Stay near the exits," I told her as we handed our coats to the check room attendant. "If I give the signal, we leave. No goodbyes." "Got it," Maya said, scanning the room. "This place creeps me out. It smells like judgment." We walked into the ballroom. The room was crowded with the elite of Briar Glen. Doctors, developers, board members. I saw my mother immediately. She was holding court near the center of the room, wearing a shimmering silver gown that made her look like a benevolent queen. She saw me. Her eyes widened, and a beatific smile spread across her face. She waved, a grand, sweeping gesture that commanded the room to look. "Nora!" she called out, her voice projecting over the string quartet. She moved toward me, parting the crowd like the Red Sea. I stood my ground. I did not smile. I did not frown. I just waited. She reached me and pulled me into a tight, perfumed embrace. I felt the rigid structure of her undergarments, the tension in her arms. "I am so glad you came," she whispered in my ear. Her voice was steel. "Do not make a scene." I pulled back. "I am just here for Dad's legacy." "Mom," I said, loud enough for the nearby donors to hear. She beamed, turning to the woman beside her. "This is my daughter, Nora, the project manager. She is so busy, but she made time for family." The woman smiled politely. "How lovely." I extricated myself and moved toward the bar. Maya flanking me. "She is good," Maya muttered. "I almost believe she liked you for a second." "She loves me as a prop," I said, ordering a club soda. "As long as I am silent, I am useful." We circulated. I said hello to people I had known since childhood. I played the part. Yes, work is good. Yes, Lily is getting so big. No, I am not moving back to Briar Glen. Then I saw it, near the stage. There was a large display area draped in velvet. A spotlight hit a series of easel boards. The header read, "Legacy Circle Families, Building Our Future." It was a donor recognition wall. The names of the families who had contributed significant sums were listed in gold vinyl lettering. I walked closer. I found the Hayes family section. It was a list, a hierarchy. Robert and Evelyn Hayes, Brendan and Sarah Hayes, Claire and Mark Stevenson, Tyler Hayes, Madison Stevenson, Jacob Stevenson, Emily Stevenson, Noah Hayes. I read it twice. My parents, my brother and his wife, my sister and her husband, my nieces and nephews. My name was missing. Lily's name was missing. It wasn't just that Lily was excluded. I was excluded. I felt the blood drain from my face. I looked at the other family lists. They included adult children. They included grandchildren. The Miller family next to us listed 3 generations, down to a newborn baby. This was not an oversight. This was a public declaration of non-existence. I felt a hand on my arm. It was Maya. "Nora," she said softly, "look at the tier." I looked up. The Hayes family was listed under the Platinum Benefactor tier. That meant a donation of over $50,000. My mother had donated $50,000 of my father's money she claimed was tight, to a foundation that publicly erased 2 of her heirs. I looked around. I saw a young woman with a clipboard standing near the display. She wore a name tag that said, Sarah, event coordinator. I walked over to her. My legs felt numb, but my movement was fluid. Excuse me, I said. Sarah looked up, smiling. Hi. Are you enjoying the gala? It is lovely, I said. I am Nora Hayes, Evelyn Hayes's daughter. Her smile faltered slightly. Oh, hi. Yes, your mother is wonderful. I pointed to the board. I noticed a discrepancy on the family list. My name and my daughter's name are missing. I assume it was a printing error? Sarah's face went pink. She clutched the clipboard to her chest. Oh, she said, her voice dropping. No, that wasn't an error. I waited. I actually asked about that, she stammered, because I knew she had 3 children. I went to school with Brendan, but Mrs. Hayes, she finalized the proof personally. She finalized it? I asked. She was very specific. Sarah whispered, looking over my shoulder to make sure my mother wasn't watching. She gave us the list of names to include. She said the list should reflect the active members of the Legacy Trust to ensure donor alignment. I didn't really understand it, but she was adamant. Thank you. Sarah, I said. You have been very helpful. I walked back to Maya. We are leaving. I said, now, what happened? Maya asked, falling into step beside me. She didn't just forget us. I said, walking fast toward the exit. She told the foundation we are not active members of the family. She put it in writing to the donor committee. We burst out of the ballroom doors into the cool night air. The valet stand was busy, but I didn't wait. I walked straight toward the self-parking lot, my heels clicking on the asphalt like gunshots. Nora! I heard the voice behind me. It was Brendan. I kept walking. Nora! Wait! He caught up to me near my car. He was out of breath, his face slick with sweat. He looked terrified. You can't just leave. He panted. Mom is about to give her speech. She wants the family on stage. I spun around. The fury I had been suppressing for weeks finally breached the surface. On stage? I asked, my voice trembling with quiet rage. You want me to stand on stage next to a board that lists every single person in this family except me and my daughter? Brendan flinched. He looked toward the clubhouse, checking for witnesses. It is just a donor list. Nora, he pleaded, it doesn't mean anything. It means everything. Brendan, I hissed. The coordinator told me. Mom specifically removed us. She told them we aren't active members of the Legacy Trust. Brendan went white. He stepped back, looking like he might vomit. She told you that? He whispered. Yes, I said. So tell me, Brendan, why does the donor list need to match the trust? Why does a charity board care about who is in Dad's will? Brendan rubbed his face with his hands. He looked like a man whose house of cards was collapsing in a stiff breeze. It is the matching funds, he said. His voice was so quiet, I almost didn't hear him. What? The Legacy Circle, he said, looking at the ground. It is not just a donor club, it is an investment vehicle. The foundation matches family contributions, but only for the primary family unit. I stared at him. Explain that to me. Brendan, right now, Mom gets a stipend, he said, the words tumbling out. From the foundation. For being a community ambassador, it is a salary. Nora, it is 6 figures, but the bylaws say the ambassador has to be the sole representative of a unified family interest. He looked up at me, his eyes wet. If you claim your share of Dad's trust, if you demand a split, she isn't the sole representative anymore. She loses the designation. She loses the stipend. And if she loses the stipend, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. She is broke. I said, she is leveraging everything. Brendan admitted, the house, the lifestyle, the gifts, it is all flowing from this position. And the position depends on the story that she is in charge, and we are all contained. And Lily? I asked. Why erase Lily? Because Lily is the variable, he said. We can say you are busy, we can say you are career-focused, But Lily is a child. If Lily is around, people ask questions. People ask why she isn't in private school like the others. People ask why she isn't on the trips. And if Mom admits she isn't paying for Lily, it breaks the benevolent matriarch image. It reveals the cracks. So it is easier to just pretend she doesn't exist. I looked at my brother. I looked at the luxury SUV parked behind him. I looked at the country club looming in the background. It was a Ponzi scheme of reputation. My mother was selling a brand of family unity to pay for the appearance of wealth, and she was financing it by liquidating my daughter's existence. Go back inside. Brendan, I said, Nora, please, go back inside and stand on that stage. I said, clap for her, smile for the cameras, because I am done. I got into my car. Maya jumped in the passenger seat. Drive, she said. I drove. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I felt a cold, crystal clarity settling over me. Mr. Sterling's office was quiet the next morning. It was Sunday. But he had agreed to meet me. I told him everything: the donor board, the coordinator's admission, Brendan's confession in the parking lot. Mr. Sterling took notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. This changes the landscape. He said, How? I asked. This isn't just about a will anymore. He said, This is fraud. If she is receiving a salary based on a representation that she has sole authority over family assets, and she is actively suppressing a beneficiary to maintain that salary, that is criminal fraud, depending on the bylaws of the foundation. She could be facing charges. And the trust? I asked. If she has been using trust funds to pay the donation to get the status that pays her salary, that is embezzlement. She is washing the money through the charity to pay herself. He looked at me. Nora, we have enough to blow this wide open. We can file a petition tomorrow to remove her as trustee. We can alert the foundation. We can freeze her assets. I looked out the window at the city skyline. I thought about the satisfaction of it. The police cars in the driveway of the Briar Glen estate. The headlines. Socialite grandmother. Arrested for fraud. It would be justice. It would be revenge. But then I thought about Lily. I thought about Lily walking into school the next day. Hey, isn't your grandma the crook? I thought about the reporters on my lawn. I thought about the inevitable questions about why my mother hated us so much. The shame would not just stick to my mother. It would splash onto Lily. It would become her story too. The girl whose family imploded. I can't do it. I said, Mr. Sterling looked surprised. You have the smoking gun. Nora, I have a daughter. I said, I spent 10 years trying to protect her from feeling like an outsider. If I nuke the family publicly, she becomes a spectacle. I do not want her to be the victim in a scandal. I just want her to be safe. So what is the alternative? Mr. Sterling asked. We settle. I said, but we settle on my terms. I do not want money. Mr. Sterling clarified. Oh, I want the money. I said, I want every dime that belongs to Lily, but I do not want the noise. I pulled out my laptop. I want a mediation. I said, private, confidential, binding. I typed out the agenda. 1. Full disclosure of the Robert Hayes Trust. 2. Immediate disbursement of Nora Hayes' share. 3. Establishment of an irrevocable trust for Lily Hayes Miller. 4. Public acknowledgement. What is point 4? Mr. Sterling asked. The board. I said, the photos, the website. She fixes it. She puts Lily's name on the wall. She puts Lily in the photos. She acknowledges her granddaughter to the world. Mr. Sterling frowned. Why does that matter if you are taking the money and running? Because, I said, thinking of the not on the plan comment, I want her to admit that Lily exists. I want her to write it down. I want her to look at that board and see my daughter's name and know that she couldn't erase her. It is a leverage play. Mr. Sterling said, nodding, you are threatening to expose the fraud if she doesn't comply. Exactly. I said, she keeps her reputation. I get the security for my daughter, and Lily gets her name back. I will draft the invitation. Mr. Sterling said. The email went out on Monday morning. Subject: confidential settlement discussion/mediation request. To Evelyn Hayes, CC, Brendan Hayes, Claire Stevenson, Mother. We are aware of the discrepancies in the Legacy Circle listing and the conditions regarding the Foundation stipend. We are also in possession of statements confirming the intentional exclusion of beneficiaries to satisfy these conditions. I have no desire to make this a public matter or to involve the Foundation's legal counsel at this time. However, the current situation regarding the Robert Hayes Trust and the treatment of Lily Hayes Miller is unacceptable. I am proposing a private mediation to resolve these issues. If we can reach an agreement regarding the trust and the public acknowledgement of Lily's status in the family, I will agree to a confidentiality clause regarding the Foundation's internal requirements. Please respond by 5 p.m. Nora. I sat at my desk and watched the clock. 1 hour passed. 2. At 3:30, my phone buzzed. It wasn't an email. It was a text from my mother. I cannot believe you would do this to me. After everything I have done for you, you are threatening your own mother? I didn't reply. 10 minutes later, another text. This is blackmail. Nora. I still didn't reply. I knew what she was doing. She was spiraling. She was realizing that the narrative she had carefully constructed, the one where I was the crazy, demanding daughter, was useless against a spreadsheet of her own fraud. She couldn't gaslight a bank statement. At 4:45, the email arrived. From Evelyn Hayes. To Nora Hayes, Sterling Vance. Legal, I am agreeing to this meeting only because I refuse to let your greed destroy the family reputation that your father built. I will meet you at the mediator's office on Thursday. Do not think I will forget this. I read the email. I saw the anger in every word. She was cornered, and she was furious. But she had agreed. I closed my laptop. I picked up the framed photo of Lily on my desk. I traced the curve of her smile. You are going to be on the plan. Baby, I whispered, whether she likes it or not. I went home early that day. I picked Lily up from school. Mom? She asked as she climbed into the car. You look different. Different how? I asked, checking the rearview mirror. You look like you finished a big project, she said. I smiled. The first real smile I had felt in weeks. Yeah, Lil, I said. I think I just finished the hardest part, but I knew the hardest part wasn't the paperwork. It was going to be sitting across the table from my mother and watching the mask fall off completely. I drove us to the park. We watched the sunset. The sky was a bruise of purple and gold. I had chosen peace over revenge. I had chosen a quiet settlement over a public execution. But as I watched the sun dip below the horizon, I wondered if my mother would let me keep the peace, or if, like a cornered animal, she had one last bite left in her. Thursday was coming, and I was bringing the receipts. The mediation center was located in a nondescript office park on the edge of the city. A building of beige stucco and tinted glass, designed to look entirely forgettable. That was the point. This was a place where people came to dismantle their lives in private, away from the prying eyes of neighbors and the permanence of a courtroom. I arrived 15 minutes early. I sat in the parking lot, my hands resting on the steering wheel, breathing in the filtered air of my car. On the passenger seat beside me sat a 3-inch binder. It was black, heavy, and meticulously tabbed. It contained the Lily timeline. It contained the emails. It contained the screenshots of the KinConnect app settings, the photo of the donor wall, the misdirected bank letter, and the notarized affidavits from my HR director confirming the anonymous harassment complaint. I was not here to win an argument. I was here to survive a gaslighting attempt. I checked my reflection in the mirror. I looked tired, but I looked sharp. I was wearing my armor, a charcoal suit, a high-necked blouse, no jewelry except for a simple watch. I needed to be the project manager today. I needed to be the woman who managed supply chains, not the daughter who cried because her mother forgot her child. I walked into the building. Mr. Sterling was waiting for me in the lobby. He nodded, his expression grave. Ready? He asked. I adjusted the strap of my bag, as I will ever be. We were ushered into Conference Room B. It was a windowless room with a long oval table made of fake mahogany. The air conditioning was humming a low, aggressive drone. I took a seat on one side, placing the binder on the table. I did not open it. I just let it sit there, a black monolith of facts. 5 minutes later, the door opened. My mother entered. She was not wearing the armor of a businesswoman. She was wearing the costume of the aggrieved matriarch, a soft, powder blue cardigan, a floral scarf, pearls. She looked fragile. She looked like a woman who had been dragged out of her garden to deal with a misunderstanding. Brendan followed her, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else on earth. He wore a suit that seemed a size too big for him today. His shoulders slumped. And then I saw the bag. My mother was carrying a gift bag. It was shiny, silver, with white tissue paper peeking out the top. She held it in front of her like a shield. She saw me and stopped. Her eyes welled up instantly. "Nora," she breathed, her voice trembling. I did not stand up. I did not smile. "Hello, Mother," I said. "Hello, Brendan." She moved to the table, setting the gift bag down right in the center. "Between us, I brought a little something," she said, her voice catching. "I know we are here for business, but we are still family. Mr. Sterling cleared his throat. "Mrs. Hayes, I am going to ask that we keep personal items off the table for the duration of the session. We have a strict agenda." My mother looked at him, then at the bag, then at me. She pulled the bag closer to herself, clutching the handle. "Fine," she whispered, "if that is how it is going to be." The mediator, a woman named Ms. Clark with kind eyes and a steel spine, closed the door. "We are here to discuss the settlement proposal regarding the Robert Hayes Trust and the family estate," Ms. Clark began. "The goal is to reach a resolution that avoids litigation. Nora, you have raised concerns about exclusion and financial transparency. Evelyn, you are the trustee. Let us start with the specific instances of exclusion Nora has cited." Ms. Clark looked at her notes. "The issue of the phones," she said, "and the donor wall. Nora contends that these were not accidental oversights, but a pattern of treating her daughter, Lily, differently than the other grandchildren. Evelyn, can you help us understand the reasoning there?" My mother straightened her spine. She dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. "It has been completely blown out of proportion," she said, her voice gaining strength. "The phones. Look, the other children are older. They are more responsible. Lily is 10. I did not think she was ready for that kind of technology. I opened my binder. I flipped to tab 2. "Tyler is 9, I said calmly. "He received an iPhone 17 Pro Max. The twins are 8. They received iPads. Lily is 10. She received a gift card." My mother flinched at the sound of my voice. She looked at the binder, then away. "Well, I did not know what she wanted," she snapped. "You never bring her around. Nora, I do not know her preferences. I didn't want to buy the wrong thing." I flipped to tab 3. "On September 4th, I said, reading from the page, "you texted me asking for Lily's Christmas list. I sent you a link to the exact art set she wanted. You replied with a thumbs up. I looked up. You knew what she wanted. And regarding the age argument, you gave a phone to a 9-year-old. So the age defense is invalid, and the preference defense is invalid." My mother's face flushed a patchy red. She looked at the mediator. "She keeps a file on me," she hissed. "Do you see this? She is obsessive. This is what I mean about her instability. Who keeps a binder on their own mother? Someone who is tired of being told she is crazy." I said, "Ms. Clark raised a hand. "Let us stick to the facts. Evelyn, the exclusion from the Legacy Circle donor board. The coordinator stated that you specifically removed Nora and Lily's names. Why?" My mother shifted in her chair. She smoothed her scarf. "It was a spacing issue," she said. "The board only had so many lines." I flipped to tab 4. I pulled out a photograph of the board. "There are 3 inches of white space at the bottom of the list," I said. "And the Miller family has 14 names listed. We have 8. There was room." My mother stared at the photo. The silence in the room stretched, tight and thin. Why, Mom? I asked. Not for the lawyer, for me. Why did you erase her? My mother looked trapped. Her eyes darted to Brendan, who was staring at his hands. Because she is not fully integrated, she muttered. Integrated? Ms. Clark asked. What does that mean? She is not on the official registry, my mother burst out. Mr. Sterling leaned forward. What registry, Mrs. Hayes? My mother looked panicked. The family registry, the list for the foundation, and the trust. If I put her name on the board, or if I put her on the phone plan, it makes it official. And why is that a problem? Mr. Sterling asked, his voice very quiet. Because then it triggers a review, she shouted. The room stopped. A review. My mother clamped her hand over her mouth, her eyes widening. She realized, too late, that she had said the quiet part out loud. Mr. Sterling took off his glasses. He looked at me, then at the mediator. A review. He repeated, Mrs. Hayes, are you referring to the audit clause in the Robert Hayes Trust? My mother didn't answer. She was breathing hard, her chest heaving. The clause, Mr. Sterling continued, that states any addition of a new beneficiary or a change in dependent status requires a full accounting of the previous 5 years of disbursements? My mother looked down at the table. She looked small. If Lily is officially recognized as a beneficiary, or even as a dependent receiving regular support like a phone plan. Mr. Sterling said, putting the pieces together, the bank requires you to open the books. You would have to show where the money has been going for the last 6 years. I looked at my mother. The realization hit me like a physical blow. It wasn't about hating Lily. It wasn't even about hating me. It was about the books. You have been draining the trust, I said. My voice sounded hollow. You have been spending the principal, and if you acknowledged Lily, the bank would notice the numbers didn't add up. No, she cried. I have not been draining it. I have been using it to support the family, to keep us afloat. She pointed a shaking finger at Brendan. Ask him, she screamed. Ask him where his truck came from. Ask him who pays for his kids' private school. All eyes turned to Brendan. He looked up. His face was gray. He looked like a man who had been holding his breath for a decade. Brendan? I asked. He exhaled. A long, shuddering sound. She pays for everything. Nora, he said softly. The tuition, the club dues, the vacations, the down payment on the house. But Dad's will. I started. Dad's will said the money was supposed to be split 3 ways when we turned 30. Brendan said, but Mom, she said if we split it, the capital would be gone. She said she could manage it better. She said she would give us allowances if we let her keep control as the sole trustee. And you agreed? I asked. I have a mortgage. Nora! Brendan snapped, his voice cracking. I have 3 kids. Yes, I agreed. Claire agreed. We signed the waivers. But I didn't. I said, no. Brendan said, you didn't. You were always independent. You had your career. You didn't ask for money. So she had to keep you out, he whispered. He looked at me, and I saw the shame burning in his eyes. If you asked for your share, or if Lily became a beneficiary, the bank would see that Mom has been paying our personal bills out of the trust corpus. He said, that is mismanagement. It is illegal. She would lose the trusteeship. She would lose the stipend from the foundation. The whole house of cards would fall. So the deal, I said, feeling the bile rise in my throat, was that you got the money, and I got the reputation of being unstable? Brendan looked down. She told us. She told us it was better if you were kept at a distance, he said. She said if you knew about the money, you would want to control it. So she painted the picture that you were difficult, that you were estranged. It justified why the money wasn't going to you. I looked at the black binder on the table, the timeline, the rumors at work, the exclusion from the photos, the canceled lunch, the not on the plan comment. It was all a financial strategy. My mother had sold my reputation and my daughter's dignity to buy Brendan a truck and herself a seat at the charity gala. I looked at my mother. She was weeping now. burying her face in the tissue. "I did it for you," she sobbed. "I did it to keep the family together, to keep up our standing in Briar Glen. Your father worked so hard for that name. I couldn't let us look poor." I felt a strange sensation in my chest. It wasn't anger anymore. It was a profound, aching pity. She believed it. She genuinely believed that lying, stealing, and erasing her grandchild was an act of love because it preserved the image of the family. She worshipped the reflection in the mirror so much, she was willing to kill the people standing in front of it. "Mom," I said. She looked up, her mascara running down her cheeks. "You weren't protecting the family," I said quietly. "You were protecting your control." "No, Nora, please. Protection without truth is control." "Mom," I said, "and you controlled us by making me the villain and Brendan the accomplice. You turned your children against each other so you could pay the country club fees." I stood up. I walked to the window, looking out at the parking lot. I needed to look at something real. A tree, a car, asphalt. "Nora." "Mister," Sterling said gently, "we need to decide how to proceed." I turned back to the room. I looked at Brendan, who was weeping silently. I looked at my mother, who was trembling like a leaf. I could destroy them. "Mister." Sterling was right. I could call the district attorney. I could call the foundation. I could send my binder to the local newspaper. But then I saw Lily's face in my mind. I saw her walking into school. I saw her life defined by this sordid, pathetic mess. I sat back down. "I want an agreement," I said. "Ms." Clark picked up her pen. "Go ahead." "Nora." "1," I said. "Immediate disclosure of all accounts where I or Lily are named. I want to see the damage. I want to know exactly how much is gone." 2, I continued. "Equal treatment. If you post a photo of the other grandkids, you post one of Lily. If you list names on a board, her name is there, no more editing her out. You will acknowledge her existence to the world." 3, I said, looking at my mother. "You will issue a written retraction of the statements made to my employer. You will write a letter to Janet in HR stating that the complaint was a misunderstanding arising from a family dispute and that I have never harassed you." And 4, I said, "You will step down as trustee." My mother gasped. "I cannot." "The foundation." "You will step down." I said, "You can appoint a neutral third party, a bank, a lawyer, I do not care. But you are done managing the money. If you do that, I will sign a confidentiality agreement. I will not go to the police. I will not go to the foundation. I will let you keep your title and your gala. But if you do not," I said, placing my hand on the binder, "I will release this timeline to the board of directors of the Briar Glen Community Foundation by 5 o'clock today." My mother stared at me. She saw the resolve in my eyes. She saw that the daughter she thought was unstable was actually the only person in the room who was standing on solid ground. I agree," she whispered. "Ms." Clark began typing furiously on her laptop. We sat in silence for 20 minutes while the agreement was drafted. The sound of the keys clicking was the only noise in the room. When the document was printed, Ms. Clark slid it across the table. "Read it carefully," she said. I read it. It was all there. The retraction, the resignation, the disclosure, the acknowledgement. I signed it. I slid it to my mother. She signed it with a shaking hand. It was done. We stood up. My mother looked at me. She looked older than she had an hour ago. The powder blue cardigan seemed to hang off her frame. She reached for the silver gift bag on the table. She pulled out a box. It was sleek, white, and wrapped in plastic. An iPhone 17 Pro Max. "Nora," she said, holding it out to me. Her voice was desperate. "Please, take it. For Lily. I bought it this morning. I want her to have it. I want to make it right." I looked at the box. It was the ultimate symbol. The object that had started it all. She was trying to buy her way back into my good graces. She was trying to trade a $1,000 phone for the forgiveness of a lifetime of erasure. She still didn't get it. She thought the problem was the phone. I shook my head slowly. "No, Mom." I said, "Please," she begged. tears spilling over again. I want her to be on the plan. I want her to be official. I took a step back. She is official because she exists. Mom, I said, she does not need a phone to be real, and she does not need a gift from you to be worthy. I looked at the box, then up into her eyes. Keep the phone, I said. Lily's dignity is not for sale, and she will not be used as a prop in your redemption arc. I picked up my binder. Mr. Sterling handed me a folder. These are the preliminary bank statements she brought. He said, "It is not everything, but it is a start." I took the folder. I opened it. I saw numbers. I saw transfers. I saw withdrawals labeled Brendan House and Club Dues and Gala Table. It was a crime scene in black and white. But as I flipped through the pages, I noticed something. The dates went back 6 years, but there was a gap, a 3-month gap right after my father died. The opening balance on the first statement didn't match the closing balance on the death certificate inventory I had pulled from the probate records. There was money missing before the mismanagement began, a lot of money. I looked at my mother. She was wiping her face, looking relieved that I hadn't screamed at her. She thought the worst was over. She didn't know that I had seen the gap. "Thank you. Ms. Clark," I said. I walked to the door. "Nora," my mother called out. "When can I see her? When can we do the lunch?" I stopped. I didn't turn around. "We will communicate in writing regarding logistics." "Mom," I said, "for now, that is all I can offer." I walked out of the conference room. I walked out of the building. The sun was shining outside, bright and indifferent. I walked to my car and threw the binder and the folder onto the passenger seat. I sat in the driver's seat and closed my eyes. I felt a wave of exhaustion crash over me so hard I had to grip the wheel to keep from falling sideways. It was over. I had won. I had protected Lily. I had forced the truth into the light. But as I looked at the folder on the seat, the one with the missing 3 months, I felt a cold prickle on the back of my neck, the review she was so afraid of. Surely she knew that stepping down as trustee would trigger an audit anyway. Why did she agree to that so quickly to avoid the review of the beneficiary status? Unless the review she feared wasn't about the spending, unless it was about where the money came from in the first place, I started the car. I had chosen peace. I had signed the paper, but the incomplete disclosure sat next to me, a silent witness. I drove away from the mediation center, knowing that while I had won the battle for Lily's recognition, the war for the truth about the Hayes family legacy was not actually over. It had just gone underground. The morning after the mediation, the city looked different. The sky was the same pale gray, and the traffic on the interstate still moved with its sluggish, mechanical rhythm, but the lens through which I viewed my life had fractured. I sat in Mr. Sterling's office again, the leather chair feeling familiar now, like a cockpit. On the desk between us lay the bank statements my mother had surrendered. They were incomplete, a sanitized version of the truth, but Mr. Sterling had found the ghost in the machine. He slid a document toward me. It was a copy of the original trust instrument, retrieved not from my mother, but from the archives of the county probate court, which he had accessed using the mismanagement clause we triggered. "Nora, look at Article 4. "Mr. Sterling said. I looked. The legal language was dense, but the intent was clear. Article 4. The primary beneficiary of this trust shall be Nora Hayes. In the event of her incapacity or refusal, the trustee, Evelyn Hayes, shall manage funds for the benefit of the contingent beneficiary, Lily Hayes Miller." I read it twice. Primary. I whispered, my father hadn't just left me a share. He had left me the core. He had known, somehow, that I would be the one standing on the outside. He had tried to build a wall around me and Lily to keep us safe from the very person now sitting in the trustee's chair. But here is the catch. "Mr. Sterling said, tapping a second document, "This is a filing from 5 years ago, just after your divorce. It was a petition for modification of trust administration. In it, my mother had declared that I was temporarily unfit to manage financial assets due to severe emotional distress and instability arising from marital dissolution. She had argued that distributing the funds to me would endanger the estate. She had successfully petitioned to convert my direct inheritance into a discretionary fund under her control. I felt the room spin. Unfit. I said, "She used your divorce," Mr. Sterling said gently. "She used the fact that you were struggling, that you were moving houses, that you were vulnerable. She painted a picture of a woman on the verge of a breakdown to seize control of your father's legacy." I thought about the years that followed. The way she constantly asked if I was okay in that pitying tone. The way she whispered to relatives about my fragility. It wasn't concern. It was maintenance. She had to keep me unfit in the eyes of the law, or at least in the eyes of the family narrative, to justify why she was spending my money, and that is why Lily could not be on the plan. I said, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. "Exactly. Mr. Sterling said, "If Lily is treated as a normal, happy grandchild with a phone and a trust fund and a spot on the donor wall, it implies that her mother, you, is a functioning, capable parent. It implies stability. And if you are stable, the justification for her control evaporates. She needed Lily to be invisible so I would look incompetent." I said, I looked at the bank statements again. The reputational risk plan. Mr. Sterling pulled out one last piece of paper. It was an internal memo found in the digital files my mother had turned over. Likely by accident. It was dated 2 months ago. Subject: Legacy Gala / Family Optics from Evelyn Hayes. To redacted. Likely a PR consultant or Brendan. Talking points for the gala. Nora is doing better but still prefers a quiet life away from the spotlight. We are respecting her privacy. Lily is a sweet girl but struggles with social anxiety, so we are keeping her events limited. Focus on the unity of the Briar Glen branch. Social anxiety. I repeated. She diagnosed my daughter with a mental health condition she does not have, just to explain why she wasn't inviting her to a party. She has been coached. Mr. Sterling said, "Look at the language. Optics. Narrative. Pivot. This isn't just a grandmother scrambling. This is a campaign." I closed the folder. The anger that had been burning in me for weeks cooled into something harder. Something like Diamond. She wants a settlement. I said, "She wants me to sign the papers, take the money, and go away." "Yes, Mr. Sterling said. "She expects you to take the payout and disappear. That is what the money is for." Silence. I stood up. I walked to the window and looked out at the city. I saw a mother pushing a stroller down the sidewalk. I saw a world where mothers protected their children, not their portfolios. "I'm not signing yet." I said, "What do you want to do?" "Mr. Sterling asked. "I want them to say it to my face." I said, "Not in a lawyer's office, not with a mediator. I want them to sit at my table, in my house, and I want to hear them say it without the legal jargon. That is risky." "Nora," Mr. Sterling warned. "I know." I said, "But I need to know if there is anything left of my family to save, or if I am just negotiating with a corporation that shares my DNA. I sent the text to the group chat that afternoon. Dinner at my house, Saturday at 6, no spouses, no kids, just Mom, Brendan, and Claire. We need to finish this. The replies came in slow, hesitant bubbles. Okay, we will be there. I spent Saturday cleaning my house. I did not clean it to impress them. I cleaned it to reclaim it. This was my sanctuary. This was the home I had bought with my own salary. The home where I raised Lily without their help. I set the table. 4 plates, simple white china, no centerpieces, no distractions. I sent Lily to Maya's house for a sleepover. I told her I had a boring work meeting. I kissed her forehead and held her for a beat longer than usual. She smelled of strawberry shampoo and innocence. They arrived at 6 o'clock sharp. My mother walked in first. She looked wary, her eyes scanning the hallway as if looking for traps. She was wearing a beige trench coat and clutching her purse. Brendan followed, looking haggard. Claire brought up the rear, looking terrified. She hadn't been at the mediation. She was the one who had been kept in the dark the longest, the one who just posted the photos and smiled. "Come in," I said. I took their coats. I led them to the dining room. I made a roast chicken. I said, "Sit down." My mother hesitated. She was holding a small, square box wrapped in silver paper. "Nora," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "I know you said no gifts, but I couldn't come empty-handed." She held out the box. It was the size of a phone. I stared at it. She hadn't listened. She hadn't heard a single word I said in the mediation room. She still thought this was a transaction. She thought if she gave me the object, the problem would dissolve. I took the box from her hand. It felt heavy. I did not open it. I did not say thank you. I walked to the hall closet. I opened the door, placed the box on the top shelf, and closed the door. The click of the latch was loud in the quiet house. "This is not the issue, Mom," I said, turning back to her. "The issue is the lie." I sat down at the head of the table. "Sit," I commanded. They sat. We ate in silence for a few minutes. The only sound was the scraping of forks against porcelain. It was the sound of a family suffocating. "So," I said, putting my fork down, "I spoke to my lawyer. We found the petition from 5 years ago, the one where you told the court I was unfit." Claire dropped her fork. It clattered against her plate. "Unfit?" she whispered. My mother stiffened. She didn't look at me. She looked at the roast chicken as if it were a fascinating specimen. "I did what I had to do," she said. Her voice was brittle. "You were a mess. Nora, you were getting divorced. You were crying all the time. I was grieving. I said I wasn't incompetent, but you needed me to be incompetent, didn't you? Because if I was capable, you couldn't take Dad's money." "I didn't take it," she snapped, looking up with sudden ferocity. "I managed it. I kept it safe. You spent it." I corrected. "You spent it on galas, on donor walls, on private schools for Brendan's kids." I looked at Brendan. He flinched. I looked at Claire. "Did you know?" I asked her. Claire's eyes filled with tears. "I knew. I knew Mom was helping us. She said Dad left a general fund. She said she was distributing it as she saw fit. She told me you didn't want any." "I didn't want any?" I repeated. "She said you were too proud." Claire sobbed. "She said you told her you wanted to make it on your own, that you walked away from the family money to prove a point." I looked at my mother. "Is that the story?" I asked. "The noble lie?" My mother set her jaw. It was a better story than the truth. She said, "Which truth?" I asked. "That you were abandoned," she cried. "That your husband left you. That you were struggling." She stood up, her hands gripping the edge of the table. "Do you know what people in Briar Glen would have said?" she demanded. "If they knew my daughter was a single mother scraping by? They would have pitied us. They would have looked down on us. So instead," I said, "you told them I was a noble martyr who rejected her inheritance?" "Yes," she said. "It gave you dignity. It made you look strong. Oh, Nora is so independent. She refuses to take a dime. It made you a character. Nora, it gave you respect." "And what about Lily?" I asked. My mother froze. "If I am the noble, independent woman who doesn't need money," I said, following the twisted logic of her lie, "then why couldn't Lily be on the donor wall? Why couldn't she have a phone?" "Because," my mother whispered, sinking back into her chair, "because if Lily is there, if Lily is treated like the wealthy grandchildren, people ask questions." "What questions?" they ask. "If Nora is so independent, why is her mother buying her daughter a $1,000 phone?" They ask, "If Nora walked away from the money, why is her name on the legacy wall?" She looked at me, and I saw the panic in her eyes. "It all has to match. Nora, the story has to match. If you are out, you have to be out. If I let you in, even a little bit, the whole thing falls apart. People start asking why you needed help, and if they ask why you needed help, they find out about the divorce settlement. They find out about the unfit petition. They find out I have been moving money between accounts to cover the gaps." She put her head in her hands. I was protecting the narrative. She sobbed. "Everything I have. The foundation position, the friends, the respect, it all depends on us being the perfect Hayes family, and you and Lily, you were the plot hole." I sat there, stunned by the banality of her evil. She hadn't erased my daughter out of malice. She had erased her because Lily was a continuity error in the script she had written for her social life. I looked at Brendan. "And you?" I asked. "You knew I wasn't too proud. You knew I was just broke." Brendan looked at the table. "I knew," he said. His voice was thick with shame. "And you let me struggle," I said. "You let me clip coupons. You let me worry about rent. While you drove a truck paid for by the trust that was supposed to protect me, I was scared." "Nora," he whispered, "Mom said if I told you, you would sue. You would freeze the assets. And I couldn't lose the help. I rely on it. I am not like you. I can't make it on my own." He looked up at me, tears streaming down his face. "I am sorry," he said. "I am so sorry." It was a small apology. It was pathetic. But it was real. He wasn't a villain. He was just a coward who had been bought. I looked at Claire. She was staring at our mother with horror. "You told me she didn't want it," Claire whispered to our mother. "You lied to me too." "I protected you," my mother snapped. "I gave you everything. You gave us stolen goods," Claire shouted. The room fell silent. I stood up. I walked to the sideboard where I had placed my bag. I pulled out a folder, the receipts. I walked around the table and placed a single sheet of paper in front of my mother. It was the donor list, the one with the blank space where my name should be. And I placed another paper next to it, a printout of the email she had sent to the coordinator. "Remove Nora Hayes, not active." Then I placed a photo of Lily. It was a school picture. She was smiling, missing a tooth, unaware that her grandmother had traded her existence for a gala invitation. "What did you tell everyone Lily is to you?" I asked. My voice was quiet, but it filled the room. "If you were willing to erase her so easily, what is she to you? Is she a granddaughter? Or is she just a risk factor?" My mother looked at the photo. Her hand trembled as she reached out to touch it, but she pulled back. "She is my granddaughter," she whispered. "I love her. You do not love people you erase." "Mom," I said, "you love the reflection they cast." And Lily didn't cast the right reflection. I gathered the papers. "Dinner is over." I said, "Nora." "Wait," Brendan said, standing up. "What happens now?" I looked at them. My family. The people who were supposed to be my safety net. "I see two paths." I said, "Path A." I said, "I file the lawsuit. I expose the fraud. I petition for a forensic accounting of the last 6 years. The foundation finds out. The club finds out. The neighbors find out. You lose the house. You lose the reputation. You go down in history as the woman who stole from her daughter." My mother gasped, clutching her chest. "Or Path B?" I continued. "We signed the settlement. Mr. Sterling drafted. You step down as trustee. You pay me my share, my full share, including the interest you stole. You put Lily on the wall. You put her in the photos. And then?" my mother asked, her eyes wide with hope. "And then?" I said, "We become strangers." The hope vanished from her face. "You do not get to be her grandmother," I said. "You do not get to take her to lunch. You do not get to buy her gifts. You get to be a distant relative we see at weddings and funerals. You get the public image. Mom, you get to keep your perfect family for the cameras. But in real life, you lose us." "But," my mother stammered, "but that is cruel." "No," I said, "that is the deal. You wanted the image? You can have the image. But you do not get the reality. You traded that away when you put a gift card in her hand and told the world she didn't count." I walked to the front door and opened it. "Go home," I said. They stood up, slowly, like old people. Claire hugged me on the way out. She was shaking. "I will call you," she whispered. Brendan looked at me. He didn't try to hug me. He just nodded. "I will sign the papers," he said. My mother was the last to leave. She stopped in the doorway. She looked back at the dining room table, at the cooling roast chicken, at the empty chairs. "Nora," she said. Her voice was small. "I really did think I was doing the right thing." "I know," I said. And that is why I can never trust you again." She stepped out into the night. I closed the door. I locked the deadbolt. I leaned my forehead against the cool wood of the door. The house was silent. I was alone. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel lonely. I felt clean. I walked back to the dining room. I cleared the plates. I put the food away. Then I went to the hall closet. I opened the door. The silver box sat on the shelf. The iPhone 17 Pro Max. I took it down. I walked to the kitchen junk drawer and pulled out a pair of scissors. I cut the plastic wrap. I opened the box. It was a beautiful machine. Sleek, titanium, a miracle of engineering. I turned it on. The Apple logo glowed in the dim kitchen. I set it up. I didn't put a SIM card in it. I didn't connect it to a plan. I downloaded KinConnect. I logged in with my credentials. I went to the settings. I found the folder marked Lily. I toggled the switch from hidden to visible. I uploaded a photo. It was a selfie Lily and I had taken in the car. Laughing, messy hair, no filters. I captioned it, "Lily and Mom, the real team." I hit post. It would pop up on my mother's digital frame in her living room. It would pop up on Claire's TV. It would pop up on Brendan's phone. It was a small flag planted on conquered territory. I put the phone down. I went upstairs to my bedroom. I sat on the edge of the bed. I had a choice to make. Path A or path B. Revenge or peace. Destruction or boundaries. I thought about the look on my mother's face when I offered her the image. She wanted it so badly. She wanted the lie more than she wanted me. If I chose path A, I would punish her. I would take away the one thing she loved, her status, but I would drag Lily through the mud to do it. If I chose path B, I would let her keep her hollow victory. She would keep her gala. She would keep her friends, but she would have to live with the knowledge that her daughter saw right through her. She would have to live in a house full of photos of a grandchild she wasn't allowed to know. I lay back on the pillows. I thought about my father. I thought about the protective structure he had built. He hadn't wanted a war. He had wanted me to be safe. I closed my eyes. I would sign the papers in the morning. I would take the money. I would build a trust for Lily that no one could ever touch. And I would let my mother have her perfect family on the donor wall. Because I knew the truth. The legacy circle was just a list of names. But the legacy I was building for Lily? That was freedom. And freedom is the only inheritance that matters. Thank you so much for listening to this story. Family secrets are heavy, but the truth is always lighter. Even when it hurts, I would love to know what you would have done in Nora's shoes. Would you have chosen path A and exposed everything? Or path B, to protect your peace? Let me know in the comments where you are listening from. I love seeing our community grow from all over the world. And if you enjoyed this story, please make sure to subscribe to Revenge Stories for more tales of justice, boundaries, and the long road to truth. Take care of yourselves, and remember, you are the author of your own life, no matter what anyone else writes in the margins.